Welcome to the happiest place, where we explore how to win at life and achieve your deepest dreams. I'm Brandi Hudson, a performance coach and happiness expert. Each week, we'll dive into practical strategies to help you live your best life by harnessing the power of high vibration emotions. Whether you're looking to improve your relationships, career, health, or overall well-being, this podcast is your guide to creating a life you truly love. Let's get started on your journey to becoming the happiest version of yourself.
Hey, welcome back to the happiest place. We are going to dive right in today. B, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Excited to help people build a life that feels as good as it looks today.
All right, let's do it. Today we're on relationships. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Here's our first one. Dear happiest place, I'm incredibly driven and focused on building my career, but my partner doesn't share the same ambition. I don't want to belittle their pace, but it's creating tension and resentment. How do I bring this up without making it a personal attack?
Oh, this is such a good question, right? I think before we go talk to the partner, we want to ask ourselves, what is it about their pace and their drive that's any of our business?
It also sounds like judgment that folks are making, right? Oh, I'm judging you. So is that a sort of an indicator of a broader way of how you see your partner? It's quite interesting relative to you. But yeah, tell me about their first thought on that.
No, I think that's completely true. We want to ultimately, right, find a relationship, a partnership where we accept them fully and wholly as who they are, right? So I think it is absolutely fine to desire a partner who is extremely driven. And if that person that you're currently with doesn't embody that capability, it would be a lot of energy trying to change them.
Yeah, I also think about, where does this comparison come from? Is it someone else that the person is seeing that reflects better what they want, or is it they're comparing them to themselves, which feels, I don't know if I want to compete with my partner, right? It feels a lot.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to compete with my partner. I want my home, my relationship to be a place of peace. And I just, if you're not doing the things that I aspire to have in a partner, then I just want to reevaluate if this is going to work for me. I much less want to go to them about being driven. Now, I will say one thing, I guess one caveat, if I may.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think if you feel as though you're in a relationship, you love this person deeply, you want the best for them, and you feel they have an internal aspiration that they aren't meeting their own capability and possibility, that it is nice to hold space for someone that you love deeply in order to reach their own goals. But we don't want to have goals for other people about how they show up in the world and in the workplace and how driven they are and how much they accomplish, because that is a recipe for disaster.
It's always interesting thinking about partnerships and how different people manage their relationships and themselves within those relationships. I was having a conversation the other day, and one person was basically, shouldn't you build a life that a partner is additive to? Another person was like, no, but what if we grow together? And then I know in some of our conversations, we talk about doing the work to become, or to have this life that feels as good as it looks. Right? And so what is the right answer here? How do we approach the beginnings of a relationship before we even get to this space where we're just like, oh, wow, these expectations that I have or newly have for my partner or for myself are really changing the way I view this relationship in particular?
Yeah, I think there is no right answer, right? Wouldn't you agree? I think we ultimately all need to find what works for us. But what works for you shouldn't be changing someone else, right?
Yeah.
So yes, perhaps you were put on this planet to be with someone who could motivate you and drive you and is in the trenches with you, helping you to go. And they've already achieved a lot, so they're more additive. And perhaps you and your person are going to be grinding together to figure it all out. I don't ever think one is maybe wholly one or the other, right? My husband has had a lot of success in the work that he does. And then I have a startup business that I'm growing and making work, but I also have a strong foundation in my past, right? So I don't know. There's never one way to get it right. But as I said to a client this morning, there's a lot of ways they get it wrong.
That part.
And I think what gets it wrong is trying to change the other person. You definitely get to decide what you want out of a relationship. And you should do that unapologetically. But trying to get a person to fit the mold of what you've decided who isn't intrinsically already embodying those capabilities or whatever you want to call them, that's going to be a problem.
It
It's not
does.
going to work.
You always hear those phrases and you hear this guidance when you look at leadership documentation, or in my experience, just reading about the decisions that you make to position yourself for success. They talk about your partner's a number one consideration, right? How do you feel about that type of guidance?
Well, I think the way that I've always looked at that statement is maybe slightly different. I always want to meet a person's spouse before I hired them.
Wow.
The reason I wanted to meet your spouse is because I think it is the single most important decision you will ever make in life. And I want to know if you're good at making decisions.
And what are some signs in terms of the spouse? Is it their relationship, how they speak to each other, how they interact, or do you look at the spouse in isolation based on external sort of what people might see as traditional validators? Their LinkedIn, all this. How are we judging? What is the criteria?
Did you marry someone who went to Harvard and who went to undergrad at Princeton
people have hired
and
based
who is
on
now
that.
a billionaire? No, I don't evaluate them on their accomplishments at all, or their pedigree or their CV, none of that. But I do two things. I want to see how you interact with one another. I want to see how you speak to one another. I want to see how they weigh into your decision-making process about taking the job. I mean, it's also the reason why I take people to restaurants. I want to see how you treat the waiter and the waitress and the busboy. And I want to see when they forget something or mess up, how do you treat them or how do you interact? So all of these things, I think, are signposts of your broader character and obviously of your decision making. And so if you're snapping at your partner at dinner in front of your potential boss, then I know there's trouble.
Impulse control sounds like to me. And someone that takes that, again, I'm not a relationship coach, but we know what we don't like. And then finally, to close out this question, there's another piece that I saw a lot of traction on where people are talking about the conversations that you have before you're getting into a serious relationship. So for some apps, they were talking about finding out someone's credit score, right? Talking about finances, talking about things that feel a little bit of a wet blanket, but really speaks to, again, credit is judgment, right? Speak to the real challenges that life might sometimes bring. How do you feel about those prescribed and prescriptive conversations?
Oh, you already know my answer. I'm a hard no. Because here's the deal, right? So I fundamentally believe that you are the point of attraction for what you bring into your life, right? So that's why all of the work that I do is about the individual. And I always start with the individual because I know that if I shift and change how I show up in the world, then that is how I build a life that feels as good as it looks for me and then for my loved ones, right? And I know that as I raise my happiness set point, as I more often than not stay in those high vibration emotions of love, joy, peace, contentment, etc., that what I attract to my life will be a vibrational match, right? So when I talk about my framework base, that's the A. I'm in alignment and I am attracting only good things into my life, right? So I would not attract someone with a terrible credit score or who had, I don't know, any number of things that would have to show up on what are those things called?
Public available data.
I love you. I can tell you are in crisis management because you were going to give us the very official name.
Available data sources, online and offline, vetting tools. Yeah.
Yes, I'm not. I feel I have my internal vetting tool.
And I love that. Let's figure out how we develop that internal vetting tool for ourselves and both sort of how we show up in the world. I want to continue on this vein. There's another question, and let's just keep going. Is that cool?
I'm on.
Okay. Dear happiest place, my partner and I get along well, but we clash on some core values around money, lifestyle, and long-term goals. We love each other, but I'm afraid we're building two different futures. Can people with different values really make it work? Hold up. I don't understand how you got this far if you're clashing on what someone's calling core values, right?
Right, but hold on, reread how it starts.
My partner and I get along well, but we clash on some core values.
However, our
However,
core values
core
are
deep, deep
misaligned.
center.
I'm girlfriend. You already wrote the answer. Like if
Exactly.
your core values are not aligned, again, it's not going to work. And I hate saying things so plainly, but that's what people hire me for, just to be direct.
That part. Right. Is it?
But you can't
Yeah.
clash on core values and think that you're going to get along. Now, maybe this person is into hyperbole and has kind of overstated this, but to the extent that what they wrote us is accurate and true and you clash on core values, what else really is there? And I want to know, what are you getting along well on?
Well, you know what's getting along well on. Chemistry.
I was like, yeah, physical chemistry
Chemistry.
is like,
It is a blocker. Oh my gosh. But
doesn't
that's
pay
the
the
thing,
bills
right? I
though.
think our core values should be established, right? I don't know that when you're going through the conversations that you have prior to getting into a relationship, that none of these could have been addressed. Is pillow talk not about, oh, hey, how do you feel about Jesus? How do you get there, right? Because that's one of my core values, understanding how someone relates to a higher power, understand what their relationship is with their parents, understanding how they feel about being a supportive partner, understanding what partnership looks. But maybe, that's not conversations folks are having, or does this passion sort of supersedes it? Why do you think people are waiting to have these conversations? Or in your practice, have you seen people getting to the point where they're in a relationship and being like, oh my gosh, how did I get here?
Oh, for sure. Not only have I seen it, I've been it.
Yeah.
So, I was the girl who would literally be red flag. No, I don't want to see that. Red flag. Oh, I didn't see that. Red flag. And it wasn't the person was a red flag, right? I definitely dated some red flags. Lord, did I dodge some bullets. But some guys just weren't meant for me, even though they were great. And those were the hardest ones to disentangle from. I can see how, if I just have a difference in opinion, some people want to be core savers, and some people believe fundamentally they will never be short on cash. Those are two different ways to live your life. And as long as both people agree on it, and it works,
Right.
then you can move forward in that manner, right? Some people want to go on beach vacations and some people want to go on mountains. It probably doesn't work to be married to someone who literally wants to spend their free time in a completely different way than you. But those are not fundamental differences, right? So you can make them work. Or I'm sorry, so those people can work with other people. But can you make them work is my point. And I would argue you probably can. You probably just don't want to be with someone who fundamentally has different values about how they live their life and what's important to them. And I think people get there because they so desperately want to be in a relationship with someone else. And the best way to teach the universe how to bring you your person is to cut the person loose who isn't for you right away.
You
That
gotta
is
let it
what
go.
changed my life. I literally said one day, the minute I know that the guy isn't for me, I'm going to cut him loose immediately so that God knows exactly that I'm on the right track, that I want the right person, that I am not wasting my time. And less than 2 years later, boom, there was my husband.
Right.
Because I was no, no, no. Hard no. And before that, I would be with someone for 2 years. And then I knew in the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was great on paper. He was amazing in general, but he wasn't my person. But I just kept pushing for it.
Yeah. I think that feels the best fit philosophy, right? They have enough until this is good enough. And you're right, it does hamper the better or the best for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to be, I think if I tell someone, I have one friend and she might be listening, so I'm not going to, but she has a list of 1,000 things she wants in a partner. She might not never get that. Let me just be. And I've told her this to her face, right? When I found Charles, I had 3 things on my list that I wanted. Just 3.
What are they? Can you share?
I don't mind sharing. I wanted us to have fun together. I wanted him to be smart, and I wanted to feel as though that he could lead my family for the long term, and I would always be willing to follow.
Shout out to Charles.
Shout out to Charles. Charles is pretty perfect for me. I think he's pretty perfect in general, but definitely for me. And so I think that I narrowed it down to just these 3 things. Let's have fun. Let me think that he's really smart and let me know that I can follow him because I have a really strong personality and I don't follow many people, right? And so just knowing that about myself and about him and having it be so succinct, I was like, this is great. Now, he's also handsome and he's also a great dad and he also is very successful and he's also all these other things that weren't on the list, but the list was boom, just real succinct and clear.
So talking about these hard conversations and understanding when the values are aligned, it sounds like your first conversation is with yourself. What is it that I want and what is it that I need? When is the right time to start having the values conversations with the person? When is the right time to have the hard, difficult, what people sort of cast as a difficult conversation? I don't think it should be a difficult conversation if you're aligned, but in this world where people are like, okay, let's put this down and say this when and figure out what is that order of operation. So again, first with yourself, which is great. That list, whatever, however long or however short, on determining when something is not working and moving on that. Then what happens?
I mean, I think you should be willing to have these really deep conversations with people early, right? It's a way to build trust. It's a way to build understanding, right? I think we rush into everything else, but save the hard conversations for later because we don't want to always face the truth, right? And so if we just get really real with ourselves, right? We are the creators of our own experience. So I would first have clarity on what you're looking for. And then I would have some sort of spiritual conversation with whomever, if it's your future self, your higher self, with God, with whomever, about what you want from the world. And then I promise you it will come. And then if you find yourself in a situation with someone where your values don't align and you really aren't willing to leave,
it's on you.
That's on you. But I think you want to start having a conversation to ask the person if they feel inclined to change, because nobody changes for you.
Yeah.
They change for themselves.
Yeah. All right.
And that's how we build a great, big, beautiful life that feels as good as it looks.
I love being in the happiest place.
Me too.
All right. Till next time, folks. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to The Happiest Place. Remember, your dreams are meant for you, and you have the power to create the life you desire. Don't forget to send in your questions for future episodes. I'm here to help you on your path to happiness and success. Until next time, stay curious, take radical responsibility, and keep vibrating high.